Diwali, and I hope you're back with more refreshed minds, ready to be back at work. Welcome to the ninth episode of Wednesday Refocus at 7, the weekly live show where we talk to interesting people who are in offbeat careers and try to dissect their career journey so we can learn to apply that in our own journey as well. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Shikha Pandey, who's an entrepreneur turned yogini. Started her career in PR and then moved on to being a part of the communication and marketing teams at HUL and Airtel. Then she became an entrepreneur and co-founded three ventures before finally taking up the path of yoga and became a holistic living yoga practitioner and coach. I'm very excited to welcome Shikha to this show, and let's hear about Shikha's journey in her own words. Hi Shikha, welcome to the
Hello.
show.
Thank you so very much, and thank you for having me on the show. It's such an honor and such a privilege to, be able to talk to so many people through you. And thank you for having me. So, and beautiful introduction. I always love your, the opening sequence. It's very interesting.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's listening in right now. Here's a quick reminder, this is going to be a live show and it's going to be very interactive. So, anyone who's listening in right now, if you have any questions or if you want to say anything nice to Shikha or to me, feel free to leave us your thoughts in the comments. We'll definitely address all of them. All right, Shikha. So, can you give us a little bit introduction about yourself and what you do so that the people who are listening can know you better?
Sure, absolutely. And you did, encapsulated it beautifully. And, that's really, I started my career. I come from so before my career, of course, giving you background, I come from, I've been brought up in a small town in Arunachal. My parents were posted there. So I'm quintessentially a small town girl. And still the mountains call me. And though I live in Bombay now in a big city, but I still love the charm of a small town and growing up there. I came to Bombay, I did my studies, and then I started my career in PR. And from there, of course, I was always interested in communication. I was always interested in building brands and launching things. And so I moved into Airtel and HUL. I was part of their brand communication team. Super exciting. I'm one of those people who liked their corporate career for a change. And, I've been lucky to work with some amazing people and make some great relationships that continue till date. And post that, I met my husband, and then at that time, my boyfriend, and then eventually my husband. And we wanted to do and create something together. And that's when we launched a co working space. Back in the day in 2014, it's called Gemini New Media Ventures. It's still running up and on, and it was one of the few very first ventures that we, did in the co-working space. There weren't many, so there was a lot of demystification required of what it is like to share your office space with someone. And that was during the time that we met a lot of startups. We were always very enthusiastic about the whole startup space in India. It was picking up at that point of time, big time. And we met up a lot of startups. And that's when we launched our second startup, which was called as Jenny Deal. So all my three ventures previously have been in the space of shared economy. So around people, people coming together, enabling a certain kind of transaction or movement was what I always did. So Jemmy Deals was into group buying, and it was basically buying property together. Over a period of time, we did realize that it was not something which was possible in the unregulated market that we had, and we had to shut that down. One of the most interesting learning experiences that I had in my career as an entrepreneur. And after that, we launched Beck Friends, which is into peer-to-peer logistics, where travel enables and sustains and pushes and fuels what we call as logistics. Today, it's a SaaS-based product which is available to be integrated with airlines in their backend, and that's my journey as an entrepreneur in the shared economy space. I've been practicing yoga for the last 10 years. So yoga was always there in my life. And, it supported me big time, especially when we were shutting a venture. It's a tough time. You have to let go of something that you built. Or when you're moving through ups and downs, when we are pivoting a product like Big Friends from when COVID struck, and it was always there. It always helped and supported me in my journey. And when COVID happened, I realized that people were suffering big time. Like earlier, so over my course of being in corporate as well as an entrepreneur, I think I met zillions of people and interacted and had, and every time that I would meet, there were very few people that I found were happy with their jobs, saying that, oh, I enjoy what I'm doing, or I'm looking forward to a Monday. They were always, whenever you would ask them, oh, how's life going? The answer would typically be, oh, it's very busy. I have no time, and always got that answer. And that sort of, always made me question, why is the same for everyone? Why can't somebody that I meet say that, oh, I'm having, an awesome time and you know what I'm building and you know what I'm doing? So that's hardly the first reaction. And then COVID stuck and we had to stay at home. And then people weren't enjoying that as well, because of course there was, such a tough time that we were going through, and we were forced to spend time with ourselves. And we didn't like that too much because we were not in touch with ourselves. And that's when I started sharing the practice of yoga through Purna Yoga, which is my venture in the space of holistic living, something that I practiced for a while and something that I share now. And it started with sharing it with few people around me that I knew, and it grew on to, also taking the shape of a corporate coaching kind of program wherein I try to bring in the personal growth aspect of an employee along with and combining it and aligning it with the organizational goal, because I do very strongly believe that we cannot look at people as just somebody who comes to your office, works and goes away. We have to look at their personal goals. We have to see what do they seek in their life, and then if we're able to align that with the organizational goal, I think we have hit the right spot. And then we are on a path of sustainable growth. When, things like attrition rate, things like stress, things like unhappiness at workplace, work-life balance, these lines sort of start diminishing because people are seeing that they are being taken care of. And so that has been my journey in a nutshell, and just makes me think that, oh, it's been a while.
Yes, actually, like you have had so many jumps. It's so inspiring. I have one small question for you. Like
Yeah.
you said, you grew up in Arunachal. I am
Mhm.
also from the Northeast. I'm from Assam. So I want
Yeah.
to know how many years you stayed in Arunachal.
Oh, I stayed there for 16 years. The first 16 years
Okay,
of my life, the sweet teens,
formative years,
the early teens, yes, was all there. And yeah, it was one of the most
right?
beautiful nights. I feel very blessed to have that kind of a childhood in nature
That's
and being able
amazing.
to do all the things. Yeah. And you
That's
would
so good.
resonate with that, how beautiful the
Yes.
northeastern part of India is.
Arunachal
Yeah.
is so beautiful. Like I've been there two times to different
Yeah.
places, and I loved both of the times. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I love
It's
Arunachal.
amazing.
Uh,
Yeah.
Another question I have for you is you launched your first entrepreneurial venture with your partner, right?
Yes.
That is also like a dream goal for so many people, right? To start a business with your partner and
Yeah.
make it successful. That's really amazing. Aside from that, one more very interesting point I noticed when you were speaking about your journey, right? You were talking about one venture where you had to shut it down. And
Yeah.
then you said that you learned something very interesting from it and you got great insights. So, most people, when they talk about shutting down ventures, they usually have a very negative thing associated with it, like I had to shut down and it was sad. But
Yes.
very few people are able to see that learning is also like you got something out of it. It's not like failing in as such, right? So, just one small question for you, like people who are struggling and not able to make it, what is your tip to them on how to take this learning as a yardstick for success and not just making money or making a big name for yourself, but also the learning? Do you
Yes.
have any tips or any insight on how to look at failure in a more positive way?
Yeah. I think, failure is, it's all about our perspective. Like you said, most of us, I could, uh, this is a choice that I made early on. I could hide it from my LinkedIn. I could, not say it in a conversation that I have about my journey, and it would slip off. Nobody would know. I could, you
Nobody
know,
would know. Yeah.
project myself as successful doing things and doing big things in
Right.
life, but that is not right. If we don't, if you're not able to wear the badge of our failure with, pride, then we don't really have the right to wear the badge of our success as well. Because success is not something just only going to come with all the good things that happen to you. Everything that you did in your life teaches you a lesson. My biggest lesson of letting go came from the venture that I shut down. And that, the biggest fear of an entrepreneur is what? What if my venture doesn't work? And then
Yeah.
imagine if you shut down one venture, how fearless do you become? That that fear is gone, that you've already faced it. Fear is, fearful when it's unknown. When you consciously take a step towards that fear, of course, I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not saying that it just happened overnight. It took me about 6, 7 months of convincing myself that I need to let it go. I was extremely tough. But now that I look at hindsight, I could have struggled with it. We could have pushed it on. We could have gone ahead with it. But it wasn't bringing me what it needed to. It was taking away more from me than it brought me. And that was a realization. And I think my biggest lesson for anyone in life is to let go and to let go with grace. And I let go with grace today. I feel it because I am glad that it taught me what it did. It taught me to that my failure is not going to make me weak. In fact, it's made me stronger, if not anything else, to be fearless towards this fear of an entrepreneur of shutting down and not being successful.
That's so valuable, and I think it's important, it's very important for everyone to understand when to let go. Otherwise, it's like if it doesn't give you anything in return, it becomes more frustrating than exciting, right? Nobody
Yeah,
deserves that as well.
exactly. Because then we are just holding on because our ego is telling us that you cannot fail. Right?
Right, right.
And then
Exactly.
that's not what you're starting a startup for. You don't start something only for yourself. You're also trying to add value to those around you and the purpose that you are driven by with that. And if it's not solving that, maybe it's not your path to go forward anymore. And that's okay.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah,
You're allowed
that's
to
okay.
reinvent yourself as many times
Yes.
as you need to.
Yes, and it's going to happen. Things are going to change. The world, nothing is going to remain the same forever. And that's the only reality in life. It is going to
True.
change.
True, true, wise words. And it takes a lot of
Hmm.
learning to actually implement them. But yeah, the more we talk about them, the more we become open to the idea that yes, it's okay to fail. And that's why I'm very happy to, hear your take on it. It's very
Yeah.
inspiring for me. And I hope it's inspiring for the people who are listening in as well.
Yeah, just one
So,
more word,
yeah,
just because I say that it's okay doesn't mean that you don't try enough. You give
of
it
course.
your best. You give it your best. You give it everything that you've got. And then when it doesn't work, step back, because then it's going to take more than you have to give, and then you have burnout and feeling depression, things like that. Give it your best and then leave the rest. Don't regret what you did.
Right. That's very valuable. Also, I have huge respect for you for starting Poon Yoga and giving like becoming a yoga coach as well. So there's this fun story which I haven't really shared anywhere else. So during the pandemic 2020, when the pandemic first started, I was working as a civil engineer, and I knew that this is not where I want to be 5 years or 10 years down the line. I wanted to find some another career path, and at that time, I did not know that you could make money through writing as well. I wanted to be a full-time writer. It was like my goal, but I didn't know any way of making money through it. So I thought that, yoga has also been a part of my life for like 5, 6 years. I do it almost every day. I practice every day, and that's really brought me a lot of peace. So I was thinking actually I can start as a yoga coach because that's something that's I thought this is the only skill I have aside from writing which I can turn into a career. And I was actually looking through certification courses and how to be a yoga coach. And around that time only, when the pandemic happened, I had more time to write. So I started writing and I discovered, okay, you can make money as a writer as well. So that dream never went, like it never happened. But I always believe that, in some parallel universe, I am probably a yoga coach and I'm probably doing a good job at it, because that used to be like a sort of, dream career for me. It was like my way of escaping the corporate order, 9 to 5
Yeah.
cycle. So yeah, like I have a lot of respect for you for starting something like this. It's like
So awesome. That's so
so
nice. And I
important in
wish
this sense.
I hope you do it as well. I mean, there is so
And I
much of
want to
space for
someday.
all of us in this, and it's just so nice to be able to share something that you've experienced with others. And I hope to, see
Right.
you on this side and maybe even practice with you sometime.
Yeah, I know. I always think that when I stay in some place, I like when I was living in my last, I was working in my last workplace. I had like every evening I used to call the ladies of the campus, and we used to practice together. It was like a starting point, and I thought that, but yeah, eventually I'm not
But
closing
you
my
must,
idea,
yeah,
mind to that idea.
yeah.
Maybe
You
one day.
shouldn't. You should. You should always be open to it, of course.
Definitely. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about work-life balance with you as well, because you talk a lot about it on LinkedIn as well. So in today's
Yeah.
hustle culture, right, people are so afraid of taking a break. I recently took
Mhm.
a poll on Twitter and I asked, what's a guilty pleasure you're indulging in today? And somebody commented that I went out for a long drive with my husband and my dog. And I was thinking, why
Mhm.
is it making you feel guilty? You shouldn't feel
Guilty.
guilty about that. This is such a basic thing. It's a requirement. Like when I posted guilty pleasure, I had in mind something that's bad for your health, like like
Mhm.
eating too much or
Yeah.
having too much chocolate. But people are feeling guilty about such basic things as going on a drive with their husband. So, what is your take on it? Like, how do we rewire our brains to focus on work, but not give up on the things that are important to us, or not give up on the things that make us who we are. I would love to know your take on it.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. And I think my take is pretty simple on this. The reason why we feel work-life balance or we feel imbalanced is when we are not rooted into what we are doing in this moment right now. And it's it really is as simple as that. For example, when we are working, we're constantly thinking about, oh, I'll go home and this is what I need to do, and that's what I need to do, and this is where I need to be. When we are at home, we're thinking about, oh, I have so many things to do at work, I need to do this. On Sunday evening, we're thinking about Monday. On Monday, we're thinking about Friday. That's the way we live our lives. What if we only choose to do what we are doing and give it our 100%? There would be no space for, guilt. You would do things better. We would have more focus. It takes of course a lot of effort to do this. It's not as easy as I say, but that's really is the basis of this whole sense of imbalance. Imbalance is all about wanting to be somewhere where you're not. For example, the sense of joy and happiness. Eventually in life, that is what we seek, right? That's the ultimate. We said that bliss is what makes us all, the bliss is our ultimate goal. Bliss, we call it happiness. Again, if you're thinking of happiness as something that happened in the past, then you're always going to be unhappy in the present. If you're thinking of finding happiness in the future, then it's delusional because you don't know what the future has in store for you. Do you have are you ready to create it in the present? And how do you do that? It's because when you give your 100% to your work, and if you give your 100% when you're there at home, there is no chance for regret, right? It regret happens when you know that I haven't given my best. That's the source of regret. That's the source of then sorrow. That's the source of building on. That's the source of wanting to be somewhere else. And that is how it really works. In today's times, things are way more flexible. We see you being able to work from home, so you're able to manage things. But even in those point of time, we're so used to saying this work-life balance and thinking of it to be something that we cannot achieve, that we don't try for it. It's really being here right now and not wanting to do something else because there's always going to be something else. And trust me, it's okay to miss out on things in life. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Okay. Now you're writing. I write on LinkedIn, but I'm not a professional writer. But I listen to you, and then I say that, oh, I wish I want to write as well. And then my direct my energy is there, which is not my forte maybe. But why do I want to do that? Because I just saw someone doing it and I thought they were very successful, and I just went ahead and blindly did that. It needs a little bit of introspection, and I think that primarily it's because of wanting to be where we are not. And I think that's really is the essence of work-life balance or any other balance in life.
That actually makes a lot of sense, what you said. I'm quickly summing it up for the people who are listening. First of all, it's like we have to be rooted in the present, right? We shouldn't think where we want to be next, or where we shouldn't think of the past, or we shouldn't think of the future. We should give, wherever we are, we should be rooted in the present. Second is we should give 100% in what we do so that we don't have any regrets. And the third is that we should stick to what we want and not get distracted by something which somebody else is doing. Basically, we should not give into FOMO. It's always going to come. There are always going to be things that we missed out on, but we should be okay with missing out on those things. I hope I covered all those points that you
Yes,
mentioned.
absolutely, you did, and that's really is the essence of it. And then there are nuances and finer details to building onto this. How do we achieve this? And that's a different practice in itself. And that's what I basically try and work with individuals and organization and teams on. How do you? This is the base of it, and then so how do you dissect this, and how do you then implement it into your life? And that's the whole practice, really.
True, true. That makes a lot of sense. So, Shikha, my next question to you is, as an entrepreneur and coach, how important is being present online to you? Like, how do you feel that building a brand on LinkedIn or any social media helps you in your journey in some way?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm completely online, so I'm like a huge propagator of online. Of course, it's very important. Apart from all of that, it also saves a lot of time, which is time is of great essence. So but I think yes, today in today's times, that's the best way to reach out to people. And for me, it makes a lot of sense because what I do right now in my life is for me, it's very purpose driven. I want to reach out to as many people as I can. I want to see as many people benefit from what I experienced in life through my journey. And I think it's that stage in my life when I want to give. Uh, of course, I also want to receive, but my primary objective is to be able to share what I learned in my life. And for that, this is the best medium. You cannot, reach out to so many people otherwise. On LinkedIn, what you talk about, you don't know who's getting impacted. So what are you writing for? There are different reasons for it. For myself, I can say I write the hoping that somebody would read it and it'll trigger that thought. The thought that I got triggered into 10 years back to take care of myself and understand that if I wanted to grow in my life, I had to be taken care of, not by someone else, but my own self. And, that's something that I can say has over and over saved me from, all the things that we face in our life. And I hope and I wish that I can reach out. And that's my only objective. I'm not here for the likes. I'm not here for the comments. I'm here that I hope somebody reads it and finds the ray of hope. 10 years back, that's what I found through someone. And I hope that I can, again, somebody finds it through me. That's the whole objective. And it's so important. You would know LinkedIn presence is important. Social media is important because you reach out. Again, what are you doing on it is your own personal choice. And it's nice. We all watch those fun reels as well, and we watch the serious reels and content and stuff like that. It all belongs. But as long as you're reaching out and bringing joy to someone, there's no harm in it. I think it's all good.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful thought that you want to give out to people and you want to help them experience what you experience. I'm so sure so many people of your community have benefited from reading your posts as well. So that's a really lovely thought, and I really appreciate that. So my next question to you is, when somebody is on this journey of putting themselves out there on social media, right? People easily get distracted by the stats or the likes or the comments. So, do you have any tips on, how to stay, first of all, how to stay consistent in spite of this all? Secondly, how to not lose your focus and how to not, pander to what everyone needs and stay true to your purpose. I would love
Yeah.
to know your take on it.
This is true about everything that we do in our life. We need to have an intention of why we are doing what we do. Whether it's
Right.
anything. And I say that to the simplest of the things, even if you're entering a meeting, have an intention towards why are you doing this? Why are we doing this talk today here? It's because we want to reach out, we want to talk about this, and there's a clear intent behind it. So before you embark on a journey of a creator or putting yourself out there anywhere, have an intention set out. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's okay even if the answer is to get likes or to be popular. That's fine. That's an objective as well. And then you do things accordingly. That's what is going to shape your journey. But if someone like me, who is looking to share, who's not really quintessential creator, and we were talking about this before our discussion. If I get driven by only likes, then I'm diluting the purpose of what I'm doing. Okay. But if you're someone who wants to be popular, who wants to be an influencer, and then you're, thinking about not thinking about likes and not focusing on the stats, that's not going to serve your purpose, right? So know your purpose. Why are you here? That's your first step towards the journey, and it's okay. You say I'm driven by purpose, great. You say I'm driven by likes, that's also great. Don't feel ashamed of what you're putting out there. There is enough market or enough number of people out there to listen and hear to you. Depends on what you're doing. If you are into a niche, your growth will be, in its own timeline. There are going to be lesser number of people, but maybe the audience that you create, the community that you create, will be very well integrated with what you are talking about, what you're speaking. If you're someone who talks about more on the topic things that are happening right now in this moment, your target audience is going to be different. They will be more moving, they'll be larger in number, and so on and so forth. So I think that's most important. Set your intention, know what you stand for, and rest of the things will fall in line. And then once you know that, then you will very clearly then against it put down, this is the kind of content that I want to put, this is what I'm looking at, this is my matrix of understanding, how am I doing around it. It doesn't mean that you just, constantly just put in without having any thought behind it. That doesn't work. With your intention, you will know what you're putting forward, your foot forward as. And every now and then reflect back on your journey. And that's so important. That's like closing the loop. You're just not mindlessly putting things. And once in a while, we all need to reflect back. Think, this is what did well. This is what people want to know. You're also here to serve people, right? So if I just blindly put on things that I want to put without thinking what people want to hear more about, then I'm not doing justice to it either. So have that loop around. Keep that your eyes, your ears open. Have a sense of what you're doing and stay on top of it by, closing the loop every time. Intention, action, and then reflection, and then close it like that.
I love that loop. I never heard of it being put in that way, intention, action, and reflection, but definitely makes a lot of sense. And it's true for whatever you're doing in life, right? Not just social media.
Yeah.
If you are doing things with an intention, then and you keep reflecting on it, then you can move ahead forward and you will not be distracted by something that is not for you. And
Yeah.
you shouldn't be ashamed of admitting and accepting what drives you, even if it's likes or comments. That's also okay, because like you said, there is space for everything. There's space for the fun reels and the more serious content as well, because today's world, everyone wants something different from people, right?
Exactly.
So there is space for whatever you want to put out online. That's a
Yeah.
very beautiful thought. So thanks for sharing that with us, Shikha. My next question to you is, if somebody would want to start something of their own, like an entrepreneurial venture or a coaching venture or anything that they have not done before, uh, what are some things that they should keep in mind, and what mindset shifts would help them overcome the initial fear?
Yeah. So I think, start with something that you're identify, first of all, your strength and your areas of improvement, and we all have them. So when you look at starting something, you would, of course, start it because you find that you have a certain strength in that area. So that is your place to begin with. Don't just jump into, it's nice to jump into deep waters every once in a while, but if you have control on the situation and it's not something which is, just happening to you suddenly, I always say that start with what is your strength, and then look at the areas where you need to improve on. It'll come because when you're putting yourself out there, when you're starting off with something, you need to have that assurance in yourself, and that is most important. Like I again said, have a clear cut, sit down with yourself and tell yourself, why do you want to do this? Right? And what is your reason for doing this? Why do you want to become an entrepreneur? Do you want to become an entrepreneur because you don't like your job, you don't like your boss, you don't like 9 to 5, all those kind of things? They are not reasons good enough to become an entrepreneur, because trust me, life gets even more tougher when you become an entrepreneur. Life is tough
So true.
anyways. Grass is always
Yeah.
greener on the other side. So, that really is true for all of us. It is tough. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. But if you have a purpose, if you feel very strongly about something, if you have a clear plan in your mind, if you know you have the skill sets to do it either alone or you have someone that you want to do it with, then maybe you need to think about it again. Think about revenue plans. You're not doing entrepreneurship to, you know, only, I mean, depending on what your project is, but most of the times we are looking to make money out of it, right? We're looking to maybe get funding or bootstrap it to the level that, it becomes really a big name, or we all want to be a unicorn. Let's just say that, that's the aspiration we all have. So you need to have the revenue streams thought out. So all of those things need to be in place. But most importantly, if you're doing a job and you want to do something, like you want to build something, do your back end first. Don't just leave the job, come into this, then realize this is not what I want to do, and then not have the job and do this. That's too much of a stress. Okay, it will take a little more extra time from you. It will take a little more hustle from your end to be able to manage both things together, but it's totally worth it. That's not something that I ever recommend someone to just leave their jobs and do, get into entrepreneurship and jump into it and then realize it's not for me, because we do realize it. So I think these are extremely, extremely crucial things. Also, I always say this: passion is very overrated. So we always say, "Oh, I'm driven by passion," but trust me, when you become an entrepreneur, it just takes about 6 or 7 months, okay, on tops, to feel that your passion is wearing out. And in those days, your discipline and your persistence is going to count. That's what's going to keep you pushing when your passion wears out every now and then, and it will. You'll not feel as passionate as you feel about it today. You will still get up, you will still go do what it needs to be done, and your persistence and your discipline will count, and that is important. So don't just blindly think that my passion is going to fuel everything. I don't need to be disciplined, I don't need to be persistent. It's not how it works. And I think these are some of the key things that really I think is important to have you set for moving forward.
Right. I think you covered everything very in a succinct manner. Identify your strengths, then look at the areas you need to improve. Have some assurance in yourself and know your why. Also, plan your revenue streams. Do the back end first. Don't just quit your job with the hope that you will be successful. And remember that discipline and persistence are more important than passion. These are
Right.
very valuable. And if somebody asked me the same question, I'd probably give them this exact answer. And I think it's so true for people to realize this as well, that passion doesn't last. Even when you're doing your dream job, you're not going to be feeling passionate about it forever. You need to have discipline. You need to just have some system in place that you can keep doing that work every day. Otherwise, you're going to feel burnt out, and nobody likes feeling burnt out. So
Yeah, and I think also
that's a lot.
one more
Yes,
end thing that I would like to, who don't hold on to your idea too tight. Sometimes you
right.
have a vision that this is what it is going to be, but the world is changing, the world is different. People may not want it to be that way, and you might have to pivot or change. So be flexible. Flexibility always
Be
helps.
flexible. Yes,
Be flexible with it. Don't hold on to it too tight. That the very idea that was going to, was your idea of unicorn becomes your reason of not accepting your own failure, and that's I think is important. Sometimes a pivot is all you require to jumpstart the whole thing all over again. But if you're holding too tight and you don't want to do that, then you're going to fail, right?
true.
So
That's
I
true.
think that's another thing that people need to sort of keep in mind when it comes to building your own venture.
Right. Yesterday I was having this conversation with a friend who is a founder of a startup, and he had a very dedicated team who he knew since college. And his idea was that I'm going to build a very successful startup with these people. But what happened was that one of that person had some other idea, and he took all the other team members away. So now this friend of mine is like alone, and he was feeling so devastated that I had this whole idea of the startup, and now it's impossible without them. And then he only had the realization on his own that his idea is still there. Nobody took the idea from him. All he needs is a different team. So he needs to be flexible with that. He
Yeah.
shouldn't just hold on to the idea that only these people can do that work. He needs to network more, talk to more people, learn about more people, and then he can build a new team. So
Yeah.
yesterday he was feeling motivated all over again after he realized that he needs to be flexible. So this is also
Absolutely.
a very important point, right? Regarding your idea, regarding your approach. if you are rigid, if you think that there is only one way to reach your success, then you are going to be in trouble, because the destination might be the same, but the road can look so much different from how you
Different.
imagine. And we keep
Exactly.
seeing those images, right? That expectation versus reality. So
Reality.
expectation is
Yeah.
like a straight line, and reality is like filled with ups and downs, and finally you
Absolutely.
reach. So
Yeah.
this is
And
true
that's
for,
what makes
I
it
think,
interesting. Otherwise, there would be like a blueprint for everyone, right? For to
right?
follow. That, you know,
Yeah,
oh, you're a startup, this is your blueprint, just follow this and you'll be successful. It unfortunately doesn't happen like that. And you
exactly.
know, it's interesting that it doesn't happen like that. That's why there is so much of information, experience, knowledge which is available today, and we all learn so much in our
True.
journeys together, right? So
True.
I think
Yes.
that that's what is it all about, really?
Yeah, every person has a unique journey filled with their own unique
Yeah,
experiences, and
yeah.
that's what makes it interesting. That's so true. So yeah, I think we're reaching the end of this discussion now. Thank you so much, Shikha, for sharing all the amazing things that you shared. It was really valuable for me. But before we go, I would like to end with a simple question that, is there any tips that you would like to share with the people who are listening, or any question that I missed on asking and you wish to answer? So
Yeah.
please go ahead.
So I think that one tip, rather than a tip, I would say one learning that I've had in my life, and you know, I learned it the hard way, and that's why it's important for me to talk to people about this. Is don't complicate well-being. Don't complicate. We tend to complicate everything in our lives. We tend to, you know, think that only when we are doing big things or difficult things or tough things are we doing something valuable. You know, your well-being, whether it's your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being, which forms really encapsulates a human and are the different aspects of a human being, keep them simple. Don't try to, you know, disrupt your existing schedule or your existing lifestyle completely, saying that you're going to just overnight change into being someone else. Rather, focus on those small little changes, things that you know you can incorporate in your life, in your busy schedule. And these small little changes are going to, over time, compound into becoming a different version of you, a better version of you. You know, so don't, if you can't, you talk about meditation and people talk about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I understand nobody has time for it. Sit for 5 minutes with yourself in the morning, sit for 5 minutes in the evening with yourself. Move your body for 30 minutes. This body is supposed to be moved. That's as simple as that. You know, otherwise we wouldn't be having this flexibility of moving our hands and feet and legs, right? This is meant to be moved. Move it for 30 minutes and see how does that impact your life. Then go on to 45 and then an hour. Sit with people that you like. Spend some time with your friends, with your family, with someone that you love, and talk to them. That's a part of your emotional well being. Be ready to share. You know, not with the world, maybe. You don't have to put everything on social media. Talk to someone heart on heart, one on one. And that's what sharing means. Stimulate your mind, read something, do something that you like. Just one little thing in a day. Maybe it's just looking at a plant. Maybe it growing, you know, that's your joy. Maybe it's playing video games for 30 minutes, that's your joy. You know, whatever you want to do, do it. Enjoy it. Life is not meant to be all serious. You know, holistic living is not serious. It's all about finding joy in everything that you do. And that's what it is. So don't complicate, instead, try to simplify.
I love that. I love that thought. I think that's something all of us need to remember today and every day as well. Don't complicate well being, and give yourself all the little joys that you
Yeah,
want to give
you
yourself.
deserve it. Yeah, we all deserve it.
We all deserve it. Right. That's so true. So, thank you, Shikha, for sharing your story and your experiences and your takeaways with us. It was really nice talking to you, and thank you so much for being a part of this show.
Thank you so very much for having me. I so enjoyed talking to you. And, you know, every time that I do something like this, it takes me back to the entire journey again. And it's so nice to, you know, be able to share it with everyone. Thank you so very much for having me.
It's my pleasure, Shikha.
All right. See you.
So that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in and giving us all the love on the comments. Stay tuned, because next Wednesday I'm going to be back with another amazing guest. Until then, stay awesome.